Chapter 4. When Aaron arrived for his late shift, he could already hear her bright, clear voice before he even unlocked the heavy back door, leading directly into the security office. Her words weren't distinct, but the laughter interspersed between them was infectious. It echoed through the hallway, and Aaron paused for a moment, his hand on the doorknob. The feeling that washed over him was hard to describe, a mix of curiosity and unease. Emily had a way of creating a presence that was impossible to ignore. The door creaked slightly as he pushed it open, and immediately, two faces turned toward him. "Good morning," Tony greeted him in his usual relaxed tone, leaning back casually in his swivel chair to get a better view of the hallway. His eyes gleamed with humor, and the grin forming on his face left no doubt that he had noticed Aaron's presence long before he had even set foot in the office. "Hi," Emily added, her voice just as bright and cheerful as before. She sat on Tony's desk with an almost instinctive ease, her legs swinging playfully over the edge. Her posture was relaxed, almost careless, as if this was the most natural place in the world for her. Aaron immediately noticed that she looked different today. Her jet black hair was tied up in a loose bun, and she wasn't wearing any makeup. For the first time, he saw her without her oversized sunglasses, which usually concealed much of her face. Her eyes, dark and lively, seemed to pierce through him for a moment, as if she was deliberately sizing him up. Her outfit matched her carefree demeanor. She wore oversized jeans, cinched at her waist with a slim black belt, paired with a cropped black top that revealed just a hint of skin without being too much. The bright red Converse sneakers completed the laid-back look, making her seem like a typical teenager, rebellious, carefree, and charming in her own way. "You've met Emily already, right?" Tony asked, motioning casually in her direction. His tone was casual, but Aaron couldn't miss the undertone of amusement in his voice, as if he was eager to see how Aaron would react to this unusual scene. "Yes, I have," Aaron replied curtly, trying not to let anything show. Meanwhile, he observed the way Emily and Tony interacted. Their relationship seemed to go beyond the usual hierarchy. It wasn't a normal dynamic between a security officer and his boss's daughter. Tony didn't just tolerate Emily's behavior, he seemed to enjoy it. And she, in turn, appeared to trust him completely. Before anyone could continue the conversation, the intercom in the security office suddenly crackled to life. The ambassador's voice came through, clear and commanding. "Agent Larson, could you please locate Emily and send her to my office?" Tony flipped the switch on the microphone in one smooth motion, while Emily leaned over the desk to scribble something on a piece of paper in front of her. "I'm sorry to inform you, Ambassador Prentice," Tony began in a professional tone that left no doubt about his seriousness. "But Miss Emily checked out over an hour ago. She said she was heading to the library, mentioned she'd be staying late to prepare for an important test. Would you like me to try and reach her?" Emily shot Tony an amused glance as he spoke, and Aaron got the distinct impression that she was enjoying the performance. "No, Agent Larson," came the ambassador's clipped response. "Just inform me when she returns." Before her mother could disconnect the line, Emily slid off the desk in one smooth movement. Her motions were elegant yet full of energy, as if she had never quite lost the effortless lightness of a child. She brushed past Aaron toward the back door, the same one he had just come through. "Library, Tony?" she asked with a smirk, turning halfway back to them. "I wouldn't have thought of that one myself." She gave Tony a playful air kiss, flashed a smile at Aaron, and then disappeared through the door. Aaron stood rooted to the spot, his shoulder bag still slung over him, staring at the door she'd just vanished through. "What was that?" he finally asked, his voice laced with irritation and confusion. Tony chuckled softly and turned to Aaron. "It's a bit complicated," he said, holding up the piece of paper Emily had scribbled on. In neat handwriting, it read, "Dress fitting for the birthday party. Please save me." Welcome to her universe, and by the way, you don't actually work for the ambassador. You work for Emily. Aaron frowned. What do you mean? Tony leaned back in his chair, crossing his arms behind his head. The relationship between Emily and her mother is complicated, not really close, and they fight all the time, Tony began, his voice noticeably more serious than usual. He leaned back further in his chair, watching Aaron as if deciding how much to reveal. The ambassador would never leave Emily in the hands of someone she didn't feel comfortable with. He made exaggerated air quotes when he said, comfortable. That's why you're here, Aaron. Emily and your predecessor didn't get along, so he was out. Tony let the note Emily had left slip into the trash with a careless flick of his wrist and sighed. Emily can be dramatic, no doubt, but she's not a bad person. She's a teenager who got pulled into the adult world way too soon. Her parents divorced when she was 7 or 8. Aaron frowned as Tony continued. The ambassador has very high expectations of Emily, of everyone around her, and Emily refuses to play the game. She rebels, she pushes back, and that leads to constant conflict. It gets loud, it gets ugly, and more often than not, it ends with Emily just flying off to England to stay with her father. Does that help her? Aaron asked. Tony let out a quiet snort, crossing his arms. That's the big question, isn't it? Honestly, I don't know. I've never met her father. Supposedly, he was in the Navy SEALs or some other military branch. A tough guy, strict, controlling. Emily never talks about him, and we don't ask. But around here, there are rumors that he's not just controlling. Tony hesitated for a brief moment, as if considering how much to say. People say he's sometimes violent. Aaron stiffened, but Tony continued as if he had expected that reaction. I don't want to make accusations, but there are signs. Emily comes back from England injured a lot. Bruises, scratches, once even a broken rib. And just a week before you started here, she finally got rid of her last cast. Supposedly, she fell. Aaron raised an eyebrow, but Tony simply shook his head. You know what's the worst part? The ambassador doesn't seem to care. She lets Emily go, like it's the easiest way to get rid of her when things get too much here. Maybe she thinks it's better for Emily to spend time with her father. Or maybe she just doesn't care. Tony paused, his eyes flicking to the discarded note before looking back at Aaron. The ambassador acts like Emily is impossible to handle, but how could she be anything else? Between the cold indifference here and whatever is happening in England, she's stuck somewhere in the middle, and under all of it, she's fighting. Against everything. Against everyone. Tony leaned forward slightly, his voice quieter now, almost thoughtful. After those visits? He hesitated, searching for the right words. Emily is different when she comes back. She seems drained. Not just physically, but mentally. She talks less, withdraws. Sometimes, for the first few days, she's barely responsive. She has this look, like she's somewhere else entirely. Aaron's frown deepened. How long does that last? Tony shrugged, his expression serious. Depends. Sometimes she snaps out of it in a few days. She throws herself into something, but always obsessively. And then come the mood swings. She can seem happy and carefree one moment, and in the next, she snaps, completely out of nowhere. Aaron nodded slowly, his expression thoughtful. And her mother? Tony thought for a moment. I think she's given up, or maybe she just doesn't want to see it. Maybe she believes Emily has to learn to deal with it, or maybe she just doesn't care. Sometimes I get the feeling Emily is more of an obligation to her than a daughter. After a long pause, Tony added quietly, I don't know what happens in England, but it's definitely nothing good. And yet, she keeps going back. Actions.